one thing that I really thought about was, and you might find this interesting, but I the album as a whole conceptually is about an ayahuasca trip that I had.
Oh, you went out and
Yeah,
did the ayahuasca. When did you do this?
I did. So I did it a while ago. I did it back in 2015,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, it was a journey. It was a journey both inward and outward and every place you can imagine, spiritually, emotionally. I mean, and I'm not a big drug guy. I've never done acid or, I've done a little bit of shrooms or whatever, but nothing too crazy. But I was really just curious about this and had an opportunity to partake, and I jumped at the chance. And all of these songs on my new album, they all have this kind of, I don't know, inspiration in relation to that. I really felt like, and it wasn't something that I intentionally went into writing about. It kind of I just looked at it kind of at the end and was like, wow, this all ties back to all these things that I saw and experienced during this trip,
Mm.
and so yeah, I just kind of went with it. It all made sense, and it all just kind of, I don't know, just flowed. So
That's fucking cool though. No, I do find that interesting. You're right. I will find that. The 2015 ayahuasca trip influences a record that comes out in 2024. Is pretty interesting, right? Alone, let alone I've never done the ayahuasca trips. I've several friends. I want to at some point. Just a matter of getting the time and
yeah,
right frame of mind for it, and just hasn't aligned for me yet. Again, I'll emphasize the yet on it. But I understand it's quite a bit of a kind of like getting 10 years of therapy in a day or two.
yeah, that's what kind of I had heard going into it. I was just super super curious. I mean, when you hear about it in the Amazon, for those who aren't familiar with it, it's basically a tea that is, it's mixed and blended together with the leaf of something and a root of something else, and it's able to kind of create DMT, which is this natural molecule that I guess your body releases whenever you're born and whenever you pass away.
Hmm.
And this kind of harnesses this for a little bit, and you're able to kind of experience this thing in real time. And they call it medicine down there, so it is very therapeutic, I think, for a lot of people. So people make that journey down to South America to go through this ceremony. And yeah, for me though, it was just a friend of a friend brought some, and it was a shaman. She brought it to LA, and we just sat in a living room Indian style and just tripped for 9 hours in a house.
Whoa. You just
So
sat in one room and tripped for 9 hours?
yeah, all of us. And you're not supposed to interact with the other people at all. It's just like your journey is your own. And you try to, everybody had like a pot in case they were going to get ill. That's, I guess that's part
That's
of it.
part of it is throwing up. Yeah.
Yeah, the purge or whatever. You're supposed to help, exercise the trauma that you may or may not have gone through. So, but
Did
I
you
saw.
did you did you puke?
Oh, I did. I
Yeah.
did,
Okay.
but I didn't have a pot. I eventually, I was like, I was just like, man, I don't feel good. So I like stood up. You're not supposed to stand up, apparently. I stood up and just like hobbled to the bathroom, and and while I'm standing there, I'm kind of like, I look back and I look at everybody else sitting there. I was like, you know, psychedelic and trippy or not, I'm fucked up. I'm like, I'm like, I definitely, yeah, there's definitely something, but yeah, whatever. So I did my business or whatever, and there was like this candle in the bathroom flickering, and I was just like, it brought me back. I was like, oh, this is so beautiful. But I mean, I saw all kinds of stuff, man. I saw like a wolf's face. The very first thing I saw. I take the tea, and I'm just like, well, here we go. Here it's inside of me now. So there's
Yeah.
no
No
turn.
turning back.
And yeah, so I thought, how's this going to kick off? And my wife was there. She was doing it as well. And you're not supposed to interact. But I see her like about 5 minutes after I take the shot or whatever. It's just a little. It looks like Jägermeister. It's like black.
Okay.
Uh, and I looked at her and she's just like upset and bawling into a pot. And I was just like, holy shit. I'm
Fuck,
like, oh
that's got
my,
to be heavy right there. Is watching someone you love like that go
oh
through that,
yeah.
you know?
Oh yeah. And I'm like, man, just, this is going to be wild. But I just kind of tried to keep calm. And the first thing I saw was just like this big yellow eyeball, like right in my face. And it just slowly just started to like move away from my face. And it was like just a wolf's face, just like looking at me. And that was the first thing I saw. And I'm like, where is this coming from? I don't know what this is. Why is this? So I have a song
The
called
wolf.
Wolf on my
Yeah, it's
album. Yeah.
on the record. Yeah.
Which was great because I got with these a couple writers, and these guys had this idea. And when I first heard like the beginning of this idea, and I'm just like, man, this is incredible. This is just what I saw. And so we really dove in and finished it. And I love how that song turned out. I think that's going to be the next kind of song that comes out here in about a month. But that
Okay.
was one. I mean, there was another one that I have called Infinity, which is kind
The
of like
opening
that.
track. The opening track, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like the title track ish. And it's such a cosmic thing that is what I took away from the trip. I saw all these things, but it really puts it into perspective how connected I think that we all are,
Oh yeah.
as humans and life forms. And there's just so much stuff happening that we don't even know. And not to get out there for a second, but it really was just kind of amazing. And I remember feeling just incredibly grateful to have decided to do it. And yeah, and there's a bunch more stuff that I saw that kind of relates to different songs, but yeah, that was the first thing, was the wolf.
That's so interesting. I'll get to that in a second because there's another person that we have a mutual friendship with that kind of revolves around that wolf thing there. But I got to ask, when you say everybody that was there, your wife was there. Who else
Yeah.
was? How many people you got in this room?
There was probably about 5 people. It was really just her and some of her friends and me and the shaman. And Yeah, there was one point where this is like in the middle of this is like kind of 3 or 4 hours in. And I remember just kind of sitting there, and the shaman she's talking, she's chanting and singing stuff, and all kinds of stuff. And I had my mouth or my eyes closed, and I remember it sounded like she was like way the fuck over here. And I like open my eyes and I like look over there, and she's still just like right in front of me. And I'm just like, oh man. I was
Wow.
like, yeah, it was
Well, yeah. I
wild.
mean, you did mention the DMT, and I have tried some DMT with just like the vape pen. I haven't done like the whole 5-MeO with the
Yeah.
shaman or anything like that, which I understand is a bit more intense. But on a smaller level, I can say I have seen exactly what you're talking about and felt what you're talking about, where how connected we all are as a species on this planet, or
Yeah.
even further, just everything that makes up this planet. When you think about the elements, bring it down to such a molecular level as coding, and that's even what we can see. It's already obvious that we're all so similar.
Yeah.
Even down to the things that make up a rock. I mean, like all of that stuff is
Right.
all on this planet. This one tiny planet in this universe. You know what I mean? So it's like, of
Yeah.
course we're all connected. Of course we're all touched.
Mhm.
And I do think that even just understanding that from the trip is monumental, right? Because you go your whole life and you've built up this ego that it's you against everybody else for whatever reason,
Right.
society, your parents, your upbringing, whatever the fucking case may be. We all
Yeah.
we all get an ego. And it's that armor that we wear. And things like the ayahuasca, DMT, even you mentioned shroom, psilocybin has really helped people recognize that ego,
Sure.
and kind of purge it. I mean, you start to build it back up, but it's important to at least see where it's coming from, right?
100%. Yeah. I mean, it's like, like you said, all the elements and everything, we literally are made of stars,
Yeah.
and it's pretty neat.
Yeah, and I've heard from other people that just shows it more and more to them. And then, and it did for me, even on a small level with just tripping on DMT, but not like going all the way piercing the veil. But, you know, still.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. That's like the real condensed version. Like how long does that last? It's like 15 seconds or something?
It's not very long. It's like 5 to 10 minutes off the pen, and then but like if you can, you know, if you do pierce, which I've heard some people have been able to do it off the pen. I haven't met too many people. Most people you gotta go with the shaman and do the whole
Yeah.
thing. But yeah, no, it doesn't last very long, and everything just goes to Minecraft. Like like everything's like just fucking blocks that are like piecing together, and you could see through it. You could actually see the space between everything, because that's another thing that we've known since we were kids. We were taught basic physics. That table that you're touching that feels completely solid is more space than molecules that are actual creating that hard surface. That right there. If you think about that, like, well, what the fuck is that space then? Like,
Right.
we call it space because we don't understand it, and we can go through it. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's just nothing. You know what I mean? There's stuff there. So it's you know, it's wild to really like challenge yourself to think about that in a lot of ways, and consider that. I think moving forward, when you interact with other human beings, you interact with other animals, when you interact with nature, like just it puts a different perspective on all that, right?
It really did. And that's, you know, like I said, that really was something that I kind of took away from the whole thing, was just how connected we are, how incredibly large and powerful just this all is. And it's a lot of things that, you know, we don't know about and we don't really understand, and we don't even really necessarily need to understand. It just is, you know.
It just is. That's the craziest thing, man, to understand. And look, there's been, you know, so many smarter people than I who have already lived on this planet, and so many people smarter than I that will learn way more than I'll ever learn on this planet long after I'm gone. So during the finite time that I have here, I just consider a lot of those questions above my pay grade, because I'm just not going to, you know, if Socrates, at the end of Socrates' life, one of our most brilliant philosophers of our race of humans, at the end of the day, he says, I know enough to know I don't know anything. Yeah, I think I'm good with just accepting some things too.
Oh yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's just, you know, I don't know if we're necessarily meant to understand everything.
No,
You know,
I don't know what the hell we're meant for. To be honest, at this point, I mean, everyone can have their theory, not theories, their beliefs, their opinions. Like I have my own too. I don't know if any of them are right. I'm not willing to lie down on everything. I consider myself to be pretty open-minded in that too, right? Like I understand what I feel, but that's my perspective. That's my journey. That's what but that may not be somebody else's, right?
100%. And I agree. And I think just to automatically assume that whatever I feel or whatever is the right thing is just you know, I don't think
it's irrelevant. Right or
is.
wrong is really irrelevant when you go through that process, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah.